Hello guys, once again it's Matt, and today we have another video. Thank you all the members of the Patreons. Make sure to subscribe and let's get into it, guys. So continuing the line of videos that I was doing, basically talking about, well, the types of vehicles or vehicles in specific that you should expect soon or not expect soon. So we did both of them for aircraft, and today I'm doing tanks. So the first one that I posted was for the tanks that you should expect to come soon. We talked about the SEP-V3, for example, Abrams, the 2A7 Leopard for the Hungarian Sub-3 for the Italian main Tech 3, right? We talked about the M1A2T for Taiwan, which is an Abrams, very similar to the SEP-V3 minor something. So there's many options out there, and that's where I think Ajude is headed to with the main battle tank, especially for the rank 8 top tier ranks. But there are some tanks that we will probably not see it coming soon. So what are those? To be honest, I couldn't say for sure X or Y tank is not coming, because they might decide that it will. So for example, the Soviet Union, it has a lot of prototypes of tanks, right? Just like the Americans in early Cold War, the Soviets had a lot of, in the middle of the Cold War, late Cold War, they had a lot of prototypes. And we are getting one right now with the event, right? The 29R2. So there's many of those, for example, that I might even say that it should not become, or you shouldn't expect it, like the Black Eagle or something. But the thing is that there's no way for us to know. There's many tanks in the late 80s that could actually come to the game that would be very, very cool. If you will, it would be for something similar to the 5th generations that were being developed in the late 80s for aircraft, right? So the same line I think it happened to tanks. They were developing better and better tanks at that time, but the majority of them never saw service because the Cold War ended. Of course, there's always the tank that, I mean, it had another name, but if you went forward, it was going to be called the M1A3 Abrams, which would be basically a non-manned turret version of the Abrams. We had the 29R2, we had the 19R5, I think it's called. I have to check the name, but still many tanks that were developed there. But we cannot know for sure when they're coming. So they might come soon, like the 9R2, but some might not come at all. So I decided to just leave it out. And if you leave that out, there isn't that many tanks to be added. That's the problem. Even doing this video was kind of hard. I found 3 tanks that I think it's kind of unlikely that you would see them, okay? The first one is kind of an obvious one, but there is a little bit of a thing that we need to talk about it. So, yeah, the T-14 Armata, right? It's a tank that for sure at one point will come to War Thunder, but I gotta be honest, I don't see that tank coming very soon. We just got the T-90M for the Soviets, and I mean, it's one of the best Tech 3s out there right now, isn't it? So there's no reason why the T-14 should come. Of course, it could actually come even with its prototype gun if they want to, like the 152, but the thing is that I really highly doubt that we will see that tank coming. It would be, I mean, that's the thing. If you say that it's going to be OP, people will complain about it, because how can you know if the tank is barely even in production, so it must be a bad tank or whatever. But you know how it is, right? You know how the game works, you know how it would be. Don't expect the Armata to be a bad tank. If it's added, it's going to be very good. Don't be naive at that point with the addition, right, of something like the Armata being added. But the thing is that we are far from it. I mean, not really though, are we? I mean, we are kind of in the mix, but at the same time, as I said, the T-90M was just added, so there's no real reason. I can see we getting a T-80 BVM that would be a little bit better, or a modernized version, I mean, or something similar to that, but beyond that, I don't see any new MBT like the Armata coming. There's many, as I said, prototypes that should come. for the Soviet Union, even some different tanks like the Terminator or the BMPT, right? Or even the T-14, or I don't know, some other tanks that, yeah, for sure would be added. But for main battle tanks, I really doubt that we will see the T-14. The second one is one that it's being developed still, but why are we talking about tanks that are still being developed? Well, guys, we have the Challenger 3 in the game, so that opens up the possibility of any nation that, you know, like needs an upgrade on its main battle tanks for top tier, that it would receive something that even if it's not really developed. And that would be the case with the Leopard 2A8. It's even hard to say. But basically the latest model of the Leopard that is being basically developed and built right now, apparently. It would be very similar to the 2A7 with some additions like the trophy. And it would be a tank that, I gotta be honest, I don't see it coming very soon. The 2A7 is still one of the best tanks in the game. There is missing 2A7s in the game, as I said with the other video, like the Hungarian one for the Italians. And even, like, there are other countries that might even get something like this, because they are actually, you know, being sold for some countries, the 2A8, right? So it would be, and it will be probably in the, like, next 5 years, probably the version to go with the Leopard 2, right? So yeah, the Germans are for sure buying them, apparently initially just for Ukraine, but still it would be an interesting tank. And as I said, if the necessity like happens, we might see these tanks coming, but not in the soon future, because the German tech tree is already really strong, right? So I don't see the 2A8 coming unless they need one tank like that. Same goes for the Armata. Only if they add like everything together, maybe then, maybe. And then the last one would be a kind of a crazy prototype, but I see them adding it, would be the AbramsX. Apart from that M1A3 that I told you guys about, that it's just a late Cold War project, the AbramsX would be basically what we can see in the far future, even like if the SAP V3 and V4 are already in the game. It's probably the last tank that it would ever add. And why, again, why are we talking about this tank? Well, because the Challenger 3 is in the game, so there's always the possibility of something crazy like the X to come. It's a technology demonstrator. It's not really like a production tank or anything like that. That's probably the reason why I don't think this thing will come, unless the necessity works. I mean, it's a crazy looking tank that would be very modern. But that's the thing, guys. Again, with the three tanks that we talked about, there's no necessity for these nations to receive something like this right now. Even the US could receive something like the SAP V3 and V4 before we even think about something like the X, right? So it's kind of crazy, I know, but don't expect these three things to come. Everything else is basically open season. We might see it, we might not. Objects, prototypes, the T-72 Ural that we never got, the T-64 from the mid-60s we never got. Of course, there's always versions of the Abrams, as I said, the SAP V3, V4. There's always something to come before these three tanks, so don't expect these tanks to come soon, in my opinion at least. Of course, this is only my opinion, so take it with a lot of grains of salt. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments, what do you think is the tank that we will not see soon in the game. See you guys on the next one. Make sure